This is the Power Producers Podcast, where we are refining and redefining the sales game.
Rule number one is you have to believe in yourself. You're the only one who doesn't think you belong in this appointment. The prospect has already validated your existence by scheduling time with you. Get it through your head you belong here, go in there, crush it, and close the deal.
A place where sales professionals can come to learn from other sales professionals and thought leaders that have mastered their craft.
The difference between a good salesperson and a best-in-class salesperson is only 2 minutes. By spending an extra 2 minutes on what you might think is a mundane task in the sales game, you separate yourselves from the pack, you grow your book of business, you close more deals, and you retain your accounts.
As well as their peers who are still striving for perfection to achieve their why.
I have a wife and 4 kids. Failure is not an option.
Real sales professionals, real stories, real results.
It's no different than being a professional baseball player. You can't be a one-trick pony. You have to be a 5-tool player in order to succeed in this game.
This is the Power Producers Podcast, production redefined. Are you ready to feel the power?
Hey everybody, welcome to the Power Producers Podcast, where we are refining and redefining the sales game. Today, Kyle and I are fortunate enough to have Mr. Bobby Schmidt from Zywave on the line with us. Bobby, it's great to have you on, man.
Great to be here, gents. Thanks for inviting me.
Absolutely. So before we deep dive into Zywave and all the cool stuff that you guys can do and are looking to do in the future, why don't you sort of give everybody the 10,000-foot overview of what your role is there, and maybe just a little bit about who Zywave is and what they do if they've been living in a cave and don't know.
If you're living in a cave, I think it's going to be that's pretty across the board for a lot of people right now. But yeah, so Bobby Schmidt, I'm the director of product and digital marketing at Zywave. So pretty much the entire web experience that you see, any of the digital tactics and strategy that we have, our website, social media, advertising, any info sheets that you happen to see, or email, all that fun stuff does fall under my team. And then product marketing, we interpret what the really smart people do at Zywave, our developers and our product managers, and we distill that into messaging that people can understand. So hopefully they buy it, and the sales folks can understand it as well too. So that is what I do. And Zywave's main goal, just to be really straightforward, we want to be the essential partner for growth in the insurance industry, whether you're in benefits or P&C or both.
Got it. So, just so everybody knows, in case you haven't ever listened to any of our other podcasts, it seemed like Zywave comes up on the majority of them. I joke all the time, Bobby, that when I started my agency 4 years ago, my first 2 employees were Modmaster and Broker Briefcase, because as a startup agency, I needed to be able to differentiate myself from my competition. And we have limited capital, man. I mean, you don't start with, blank checkbook and unlimited funds in your bank account. So I figured that if I took the money and invested it into those 2 products, I would have the diagnosis of a problem and the treatment plan to solve that problem for any client that I would get in front of. And, we grew very well using that strategy. It's interesting because I think that, I'm part of a bunch of forums on the internet for agency owners and everything else. And I think that when you see agency owners by and large talk about any product, I mean, this is not isolated to Zywave by any stretch. It could be a CRM. It could be an agency management system. It's literally right down the middle. You have 50% of the people who are fans and 50% of the people who are not. And my theory on all of this is if you're not a fan of any of these products, number one, you probably purchased something at a time where it was too early for you to purchase it and you didn't create the need. And so you just bought something you were never going to use because you were in that part of your growth cycle where you didn't have the time to devote to it. Or you did buy it at the right time and you simply didn't put any effort into using it. And I think that a lot of the agency owners that are out there have this shiny object syndrome where if they hear somebody say they got a big account using something, that they immediately run out and try and replicate that. Well, I hate to rain on everybody's parade, but there is no magic wand that gets you to close business out there. But there are some excellent tools, and Zywave is one of them. And it's one of them that we use religiously here at Florida Risk Partners. And if you're not familiar with it, tune in. If you are familiar with it, you might pick some things up from Bobby today. And if you're familiar with it and you have a bad taste in your mouth, go wash your mouth out and come back and listen, because I have a feeling it's your fault and not theirs. I have a theory in life, Bobby, that says it's always the person and never the process. People are what screw processes up. So I think Zywave's got a great process, and that's what we want to spend some time talking about today.
Yeah, I think I can hang up and you can just keep going. But no, I do agree. I do think that, when software does in general change so fast, and, you talked about people being down the middle. I think that's fair. But I also think that as we're striving, we made a ton of changes that we can talk about past several years to really be more partner focused and to prove it. We're in that phase now at first where we said, this is what we're going to do. And now we're actually accomplishing it in very, very real ways. But I think it is prudent for anyone that, if there's a platform out there like a Zywave, I think it's prudent to take a look at it every few years because it changes drastically. I mean, if you look at folks who really invented software as a service, which is Salesforce, look at what it was 10, 12 years ago and today. And I mean, remarkably different platforms with multiple uses too. So we're happy for anyone who wants to take a fresh look at some things, which we still have. Broker Briefcase and ModMaster are certainly two of our flagship products today. So although we have them available in their solutions available in a cloud format, which we can talk about as well.
Yeah, I'm interested. So, you guys have changed stuff around a lot in the last couple of years. I'm pretty quick to adapt to certain things. And then in other things, I'm old school and I get these mental blocks. And so I have a hard time comprehending what's what, based on the way that, my sales guys have presented some of that stuff to me. Talk a little bit about that, because it almost seems like, you've sort of divided the business into four columns or quadrants or whatever. I don't know if it's exactly four, but I know that it's almost like a vertical stack now, that if you want this particular, item, then it's in this stack that's titled Sales Cloud or whatever. I don't even know the official names of them, which I'll let you run with it.
Yeah, no, thank you. So, and by the way, I came on about 2 years ago through an acquisition company called Code 64, which did quoting and proposals for the benefits industry. So if you're a full service insurance agency, that's absolutely something Zywave does provide. And so that's where my background came from on the benefits side. And right before that, we were actually the first acquisition that happened after there was a big leadership change. And Jason Liu, who's our current CEO, came on board. And there were a lot of, Zywave had been around for a while. There are some very known flagship products. You mentioned a few of them earlier. But my impression coming in, and a lot of other people's, were you have, instead of four stacks, as you eloquently put it, we had about 20 odd disparate software offerings that didn't talk to each other. It was confusing, kind of comprehend what all they can do. And that's even if you were benefits or P&C agency or both, especially if you're both, it's very confusing. And one of the things we wanted to do was invest heavily in R&D and have a really thought out acquisition strategy to become what I said at the beginning of this call, to be your essential partner to help you grow. And one of the things we wanted to do was build these products and help them start working together, have the power of Broker Briefcase really power the ability for your sales and marketing, and not just sending stuff to your clients. And same thing with the recent acquisition we made of MyEdge that we can definitely talk about, which really fuels your lead generation and prospecting efforts in a timely manner, which in sales, we all know, timing and the right message and content is everything. So what we've done is we took all of these products and we lined them up and we said, how are we going to position these to the market, and they are in 4 different categories. We have the Sales Cloud, we have the Content Cloud, the Client Cloud, and the Analytics Cloud. So, a couple things. You can see the Sales Cloud is your lead and prospecting generation engine. Email marketing, those sorts of things, being able to get you right in front of the right people at the right time. The next cloud is the Content Cloud, which traditionally is most of what Broker Briefcase did. So Broker Briefcase, absolutely our flagship product, which, I'm a big fan of. It sounds like you are as well. Has thousands upon thousands of Zywave created content pieces. We also have what we call PNC One Source with other industry leaders like ERMI and ISO, Rough Notes, being able to pull in, and now the ability to create your own content. And instead of just isolating it into one thing, we created the Content Cloud, which can feed the Sales Cloud with information. So, and that keeps growing and growing. One thing we've recently done with the Content Cloud is what we call smart content. So when you click, for example, so the Content Cloud or Broker Briefcase, by the way, I'll talk about the two interchangeably a little bit, because you can still buy Broker Briefcase as an individual product. If you look at our overall strategy of these 4 clouds and say, you know what, everything that's included in one of these isn't right for me at this time for whatever reason, you still can buy our these feature products as a standalone. But the Content Cloud does have the ability, when you click on a client, because you do put like your client name and industry in there, it'll actually serve up through machine learning really pertinent content. If we can have thousands and thousands of amazing pieces of content all day long, but if we're not helping you highlight what's the most applicable for your client today based on their based on their DNA, then we're not really helping you out very much. So the other thing is the Client Cloud, and the Client Cloud would be more of what you would see as ModMaster, giving you specific information about clients so that you can hit them up at the right time. As you've mentioned, that's a really good example. The Client Cloud. We also have HR Hotline. We have a learning management system as well too that we've bundled in there. And finally, the Analytics Cloud. And actually, I said ModMaster. Excuse me. ModMaster is in the Analytics Cloud. Sorry about that. But so ModMaster is available in the Analytics Cloud, and that's where, specifically for PNC, we've seen a lot of help. So Sales Cloud, Content Cloud, Client Cloud, and Analytics Cloud, where you'd see some of our individual products before, we've aligned them, and we're allowing them to talk to each other more and more.
So I want you to go back for a second and talk a little bit about the smart content and how that actually works, because I'm interested in what data points that it's pulling or what it's using as its algorithms to determine what's relevant right now. And is it done on an individual account by account basis, or is it by industry segment, or is it just by what Zywave sees users pulling and using the most? I don't need the secret sauce behind the scenes, sure, but I'd like a little more clarification around that, because that's intriguing to me.
Yeah. So right now, it's all the above and also recent trends as well that we're seeing. So, if you have a client that is in the manufacturing industry and you click on that client in Broker Briefcase or the Content Cloud, it will pull information from where they are in the country. For example, if there's like specific legislation that has been in that state that they have to be aware of. Right now, I think we all know this thing called COVID that's going around as well, which we've created a ton of resources available, a lot for free, which are available, which we can talk about, but are available in the Content Cloud or Broker Briefcase. So if you're a manufacturing facility, it may pull up information about OSHA, returning to work safely. If there's something specific to where they are, the size of the company, all of those, all the DNA of, where they are, who they are, location, all those sorts of things that will serve up that content for you at first as recommended, or, we say machine learning as well. So, the things that it will get smarter the more that you search and download. So the more things that you look for, as a broker, logging in, searching for them, it's smart enough to know, hey, these are some of the guidance that they're looking for. So we're going to serve them up and move those to the top. Does that make sense?
I'm sure it's even more it makes sense to me for sure. I mean, the current event stuff, I'm sure it's even more in depth now. I mean, I probably have the most experience with the broker briefcase aspect of everything, that and Modmaster. But I was always amazed at just the sheer amount of content and info that was in there. Like, to give everybody an idea of like how important this, is to our agency and how often we use it. David, I think you showed me Zywave the first time that we met to discuss me coming on board, like before we went to launch.
I used it as a recruiting tool. And I don't know how many people you...
Pretty much. I was like, holy shit, this is crazy. Like, how much stuff is in here, and what I'll have at my fingertips to be able to go and share that and use that when I'm, not only prospecting, but once I get in front of, people and I'm actually meeting with them. It's nuts and very effective.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting. One of the things that I'm really intrigued by is the acquisition of MyEdge. And, I'll be blunt with you, Bobby. I bought MyEdge. I swapped it out for a different product that I had that I originally had a really good idea around, and then figured out another way to solve that problem. And Zywave also has figured out a way to solve that problem now with the learning cloud, or whatever that product is that you can use to do the training in the different client and prospect places. But MyEdge to me really looks to be the gas that's going to drive the engine for a lot of this stuff that's going on right now. And, I can see the potential in it. I wouldn't say that it's 100. Listen, I don't think it's anywhere close to what it's going to be 2 or 3 years from now. But I'm interested in, your thought process around MyEdge, because I can see its ability to get the data on all of these clients and prospects, have it as a central repository, and then push out to all of your other products if they're able to talk back and forth. Tell me how far off base I am on that.
I think you're right on. I mean, we were just scratching the surface of integrating MyEdge into all of our clouds, really. I mean, and the easiest sell for it, I would say, or pitch for that would be in the Sales Cloud. But I'll give you an example. I mentioned it earlier. I personally look at, because demand generation is something that certainly falls in my department's lap. We can send you emails and send you stuff all day, but if we don't have immediate access to the right people, but we're also hitting them up with valid content to get their attention, in what is a traditionally referral industry, I think most people would agree in the insurance industry, which is a great thing. But how do you get in front of the right people at the right time to help, win those extra opportunities? And, especially if, there's a certain carrier that, only allows one applicant before a lockout. You're appointed with that carrier. Let's say that you want COPE data and you have an account that's in the Zywave system. Well, we just released this ability with AMC, which is your account and contact management that you would have available. If you have Broker Briefcase, you have this today, or the Content Cloud. But you would be able to, there would be something that would pop up for MyEdge data. And if you wanted COPE data, let's say that there's a building that was built in 1986, say 4,800 square feet, built with masonry, XXX distance from a fire hydrant. You're going to get that information. You're also going to see, with the X dates, when is their contract up, those sorts of things, like that timeliness and that specificity. So it can speed up your ability to fill out an application, with a carrier. That is, for us, we think, and at agencies we've talked to, that speed and that one-to-many ability to find that information, farm it out, and send it off quickly is a specific way a lot of folks are starting to win with MyEdge.
Yeah, I think so. I am heavy on prospect research. So I'm a big fan of spending more time on the front end, knowing as much as you can before you allow something to get into your pipeline, even as a suspect, because I think it sets you up for a higher close rate when you're actually at the point of sale with these people. And what I can see MyEdge doing to make me more efficient is just becoming that dashboard where instead of me going to Reference USA and property appraisers websites and all of these things, as it gets more and more built out, I'm going to be able to go to a single dashboard and either get that information or with a click of a button, get to that information, like the social media assets and all of those other things. And that makes life so much easier, in my opinion, for somebody who's prospecting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's what we talk about all the time with, not with our time being valuable. And if we can go to one place for all that info versus, 5, 6 other different websites, like you mentioned, Reference USA and all these different social media things, it's an absolute game changer.
Yeah, and I think you both hit on something here. I mean, there's all this data out there, and if you've looked at MyEdge specifically in the past, even before our acquisition of them, big data is great. It's overwhelming. You also said earlier, without a process, technology just makes things more confusing. We see that over and over again. So for us, it's an amazing database. What do we do with it? And how do we get that information to you quickly so that you can, pivot and produce?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I'm looking forward to it. We've used it. We've not had it that long, but it just makes life easier for simple stuff like distance to the water.
Right. Stuff that you got to know when you're going through on these carriers' websites and quoting, and it's always the stuff that's the most annoying to find out. And I haven't used it a ton because when you brought this up to me, David, this is right before COVID, really kind of started. So I didn't really get to. I barely scratched the surface of what the capabilities were, and I'm sure it's probably changed since then and will continue, as you said, Bobby, moving forward. But it was pretty incredible, all the stuff that was just right there.
I mean, in one pane of glass, being able to see things, like we said, renewal X dates, who their current carrier broker is, are they using a PEO? I mean, all these potential hazard and property lookups. It's almost like one of the things I asked somebody when the acquisition happened. I'm like, do they have like little, you see the Google cars running around for Google Maps with cameras? I'm like, are they like physically going to all these places and all these cities and gathering this information? Because the robustness of the data, is robustness a word? I don't know. I'm going to use it. The robustness of the platform. I mean, we are pulling, we have at least 25 unique data sources with 3 million commercial insurance leads in there right now. So, and it's constantly growing and being fed. And, we're getting smarter as we're finding more and more ways to use it as well. I mean, the example I gave and you guys gave is just, scratching the surface. I think if we do this again, hopefully we will do this again a year or two from now, the possibilities really are endless and how to fuel the other technology that we've already built and are currently in the works.
If there was one thing that I would tell you that I really wish Zywave would have had a couple of years ago, it's a CRM type component. And I know that when our sales guy came in, that was something that had been tossed around. It was right around the time where the leadership changed and all of that. I never really went back and visited it again. We ended up pulling the trigger in January of 19, and we're heavily invested in HubSpot at this point from a CRM standpoint. One of the reasons why is because of the sheer amount of analytics that we can get from HubSpot, the ability to do lead scoring, the ability to integrate email and digital, the social marketing and all of that stuff, and monitor buyer behaviors to determine, who's ready to buy now and who do you just need to leave on the back burner. With all of the stuff that you guys are doing, I've got to believe that there's something on the horizon at some point. And you don't need to give away a secret.
You see me smiling. Yeah.
But I've got to believe that there's some way to do that, because if I were being critical, that's the one thing that I would tell you is the level of data that we can get through using the broker briefcase campaigns lags compared to what I can get from HubSpot.
Sure. I used HubSpot at Code 64 in a prior life. They, I think, have really built this meeting between sales and marketing better than maybe anyone. Pardot's one, Marketo's one, if you talk about the big marketing automation players. And that's really, when we say CRM, we used to just talk about contacts, accounts, and activity for your sales team. And, and that's why Salesforce bought Pardot for $1 billion a couple of years ago. And HubSpot and these other companies do it really, really well. So one thing we don't want to do, and I talked about our think I mentioned our commitment to R&D and acquisitions. And we've increased R&D budget somewhere between 25 and 30% in 2019. That's continuing. So one of the biggest things for us was to publish, an API. So step one for us, if we don't have something that's really critical for your business operations, which is absolutely CRM and marketing automation, which I would say HubSpot is a marketing automation first, CRM second. But we could argue about those details, but they both do well. And for us, it's like, well, hey, what do we have currently? And Zywave does have the ability to send emails. We used to only be able to send, via Broker Briefcase, be able to send emails with content attached to it. Well, we're changing that. We've already changed that. We can send emails to contacts without any content, basically a marketing email. The basics, setting up those basics are important because you can build on that. And then we are moving more and more to integrate with Salesforce in different ways, and also leading P&C agency management systems. So from an R&D standpoint, building integrations, publishing an open API, and building those things out are really key for the people who are doing it really well. The other side of it is being able to invest in our products. So, where I can't talk about a CRM system right now, I can say that, it's a priority for us to kind of improve that experience internally. Like, for example, social sharing is something that is imminent. I can tell you that in the next 30-ish days, where you'll be able to share content socially that's in, you have the Content Cloud. So some of these things you'll start seeing. It will over time. I think it will be looked at as more of like a CRM, marketing automation, probably marketing automation first, and then through some development in our an acquisition as well. We definitely want to go in that direction because that's your system of truth. Is your source of truth. I mean, we use a marketing automation system in our marketing team. It's not Zywave. I don't mind saying we use Marketo. It's great. I love it.
Yeah. No, I mean, I looked at Marketo and Pardot both as part of Salesforce when I was making the decision as to who I was going to go with. And it's funny, man, because I'm probably a little bit different than the average agent that my sales guys talk to, because I do have some level of technology understanding. And
you talk about lead scoring. I don't hear that a lot.
Well, one of the things I'm interested in, though, when you mention open API, like, do you foresee anything on the horizon where we're going to be able to use Zapier integrations to make things talk to each other where we haven't been able to do that in the past?
Yeah. So yes, that is something that's certainly on the plate. I mean, right now we have a published API where you can exchange accounts and contacts with any system. The caveat is with development, it's a little bit of development. It's something that we don't scream from the rooftops right now because we don't want people to assume there's just a natural integration with things that there aren't. But that's certainly, it's certainly doable. Like I said, with a little bit of dev work. So, but Zapier, once again, something we use internally with our systems a lot. I know in marketing, I use it for a lot of different things. But yeah, that would be the direction we're going in.
Good deal. That makes me happy because I think that there's a lot of opportunity for me to be able to have HubSpot talk back and forth. And truthfully, it would make for a more complete experience on our end because we're at a point right now where we have to decide, do we want to take the time to put this stuff in the account management center? Do we want to put it over in the CRM? Do we, then you throw the agency management system into the mix. I'll be honest. I have a theory that a lot of agencies run themselves the wrong way. They run themselves like insurance agencies, and they're not. They're sales organizations. Until you actually sell somebody a policy and you're required to do insurance work, you're not an insurance agency at all. You're out trying to generate top-line revenue, which is a sales organization. And you'd be hard-pressed to find a sales organization for a Fortune 500 company that is running off of AMS, of Applied Epic. They're just not going to do it. They all have CRMs to do that. And so for me, HubSpot has become the central place where we get everything put in. We don't even touch our agency management system until the download hits. Like if we bring that client on board and the download goes in, then we'll go in and clean up that data. Otherwise, there's really no point in us going in there. With the way things are at this point, you don't have anything at all. I mean, very few of our carriers want you using Accord forms. You're going to their websites. So, from my perspective, if I'm looking at this thing from the 50,000 foot overview, I could see My Edge being a dashboard that is going to help you generate smart content, but I can also see it being able to push out to an AMS to pre-populate the information that it has on record to go to Accord Forms to create a submission. Or if you have another technology product like a SEMC or a Tarmica or something like that, be able to push that information on that account record out to those rating platforms and then let them push that out to the carrier websites. I mean, I just think there's so many different directions this thing can go, and it's gonna take what used to be hours of work and turn it into about 5 or 6 clicks if it's done right.
100%. I mean, you mapped it out much better than I did earlier, so I'm gonna remember that. But we throw away a lot of jargon, a lot about wanting to be an end-to-end solution, but really that you just encapsulated it well. There's the sales process. What's the sales process operationally for your agency? And you're having to go to 3 different areas to even capture the information to get an application out or get a price quote out. And the same thing, once they become a client, it's a whole different operational platform. We really are building like a true end-to-end platform for all sides of insurance, whether it's benefits or P&C. So how you described it is certainly the direction we want to go.
What do you see next, man? I mean, you're allowed to talk about what's on the horizon for you guys right now.
Yeah. So, let me think of the best way to put this. Integrate, we talk about integrations, that's huge. Continue to do that because we have competitors, I hate to say it, that I don't hate to say it because it's the truth, that do some things really well. So how do we, things are sticky, and inertia is a real thing where, agencies, they've been using something that works for a really long time, whether it's an AMC system or some sort of quoting platform or whatever. How do we connect with that to kind of still plug that in where they can still get the value out of what we have existing and where it's going? We are very interested in enabling the seller for P&C. So any opportunities to drive more efficiency in the sales process, let's say pipeline tracking, email automation, customer outreach automation, those are things we're going to be continuing to invest and grow and release. Leveraging data from My Edge to make prospecting smarter and easier. You imagine a world where you have a defined ideal client profile. And that software automatically helps you prospect 100 accounts in your zip code or multiple zip codes that fit that DNA. And let's say 10 of those people opted in meetings with you, and during the first meeting, you already know what carriers they're with, what lines of coverage they have. You're able to consult them about their overall risk strategy. Walking into that first meeting. So we've talked about some of that already, but that's really where, at this point, where I would say our next iterations of this will go.
So you may or may not know this, but I actually have a digital training program for commercial property and casualty agents across the country. And we've got a little bit north of 50 agencies that are in that program right now. And the very first thing that I have them do when they come in, whether it be just an individual producer or an agency, is to construct a business plan, because it's important for me to see where they're at, where they want to go, and how they connect the dots to get there. The very next thing that I have them do when we begin the prospecting module is identify their ideal prospect profile. Exactly what you just said, because I think, you guys can make it easy to do that. But what I find is that if I were to go to 10 different agents and just walk up to them randomly, say I'm at some conference and say, hey, man, what's your ideal prospect? 9 out of 10 can't tell you what it is, and if they can't.
Not specifically, they would give you some generic sort of answer,
something like that, whereas, for me, the example that I always use is I like service contractors, plumbers, HVAC, electrician. Yep. I like them to have 25 or more vehicles in their fleet, 40 or more employees, an experience mod of 1.0 or higher, and annual revenues of $5 million or more. If I can plug that into a search and have it say, here's all your people in those SIC codes, it's insane. Yeah, right now I'm having to do that manually. You can get reference.
Right.
Yeah, well, believe it or not, though,
hours.
Reference USA has gotten
there,
much better in what they let you drill down into, but the data is spotty at best.
It's good, but right, and it's spotty at best. And once you do a little bit more digging, but like we talked about earlier, you not only have to go there, you've got to go to a bunch of different other places to verify it and to find additional info that Reference USA doesn't have. And it takes hours. Like I'm telling you, when I'm sitting there and doing that stuff on Friday before I'm going out, pre-COVID and doing drops on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, whatever, it takes up the entire day basically on Friday, doing the research. So, and that's not a bad thing. That's just part of it. But to your point, if all of that stuff is housed in one spot and it's smart data where you can just plug in the criteria and boom.
Yeah, you could probably pick up almost an entire day worth of productivity that way.
Easily.
Absolutely. I mean, there's a book that one of the founders of the whole sales process of Salesforce. His name is, two authors, Aaron Ross and Mary Lou Tyler, wrote a really, I would say, the comprehensive lead gen book of this past decade called Predictable Revenue. I don't know if either of you guys have read that, but they talk about nets and spears. And when I said earlier, My Edge has, for example, 3 million commercial prospects in the database. Okay, great. What do you do with that? And if we're not, if we can't help, via machine learning, understand your agency's DNA, what you're looking for, and then immediately those prospects' DNA and your current client's DNA for other content help serve that up. That's where the magic happens, and that's where things, 1.0 is, I would say 1.0 of like lead generation and operational technology was just giving you access to all this data. It's overwhelming. Few people could have the time to really sort through it and find what they needed. But 2.0 to this is really serving up for you in a smart way. You can take action on it immediately and consistently and constantly.
Yeah, so I'm interested in the portal that just launched. That was one of the other things I had in the bullets that I'd put together. Talk a little bit about that and why you guys decided to make that move.
Are you talking about the MyWave to Client Cloud portal, I assume?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So a couple of things we wanted to do is where, MyWave has been a great product for us, but we wanted to really, we're moving towards this cloud model where things talk to each other. And one of the things we wanted to really work on is like the mobile responsive design. It used to not be mobile friendly. That's blocking and tackling. It's basic, but it's important and it's not easy to do. Another thing is custom branding controls. And there's actually 4 things. Mobile, custom branding controls, have all your tools integrated in one place. But you can choose which ones show up to each customer. And finally, we've rolled out an advanced LMS, a learning management system. It's been referred to before as Zywave Learning. That has courses applicable to PNC, which once again you can serve those up to folks per your recommendation. So it was timely. It needed to be updated, and then with this cloud model, it allowed us to really brand this within the client cloud, client portal within the client cloud. And that's some of that's branding too. We do want to get away a bit from calling things eventually like Broker Briefcase, My Edge, MyWave. We want you to know what they are and look at them as a solution within the cloud. My Edge is lead generation and prospecting. Basically, MyWave Connect is the client portal within the client cloud. It's just a little more prescriptive of what it is instead of having 20 overly branded products within Zywave that it's harder to understand how they work together. So
that's a good point.
That's the other reason we really wanted to go to this cloud. If you go to our website, it talks about the clouds. And then within the clouds, you hover over that, it talks about the solutions. So really the products we used to have, really, I say used to have, we still have them. I'm just in the manner of reminding my team to talk about the clouds all the time. But look at the solutions within the clouds, and those map to the products. And even when you go to the site, it even says under each cloud, if you go to Sales Cloud, it says solutions, marketing, prospecting, quoting and proposals, agency management, agency operations, and technology integrations. And then the featured products, My Edge, Broker Briefcase, CPQ, and an agency management system for benefits as well too. So for benefits, but it does align those so you can see what the old with the new. And then, and one other thing I want to mention, I failed to mention it earlier, is we do have different suites that you can purchase within each cloud. So just because we're not saying, hey, you got to buy the Sales Cloud to get everything or just the one featured product, we do have different suite options that are certain solutions packaged together at different levels, so that we really believe can meet the needs of really any size agency or where they're at with their current operations.
Yeah, I'm excited about the learning management system. I think that's going to be a game changer for us going forward. I've always believed in the girth of Broker Briefcase it's just stupid, man. I mean, it's crazy how much stuff is in there. But, what I have done before you guys came out with this product was I would export the OSHA trainings with the PowerPoint and the quizzes and all of that. And then I would do like a Loom recording on my screen of me doing that training digitally myself for my clients. And then we would upload that into my client's payroll processing system and create tasks for onboarding inside of Paylocity or something like that. So that if we did a defensive driving program for a plumber, anytime they hired a new person, it would automatically flag that they had to go through these 4 segments of videos that I had created using the Zywave content. And then they couldn't go to the next step of the process until they had completed that training, passed the quiz, and done that in 4 segments. And I mean, we broke it down into like 3 to 5 minute videos because they're more easily digestible. And, originally what my intention is we had HR Connection, and I was going to use HR Connection to build a risk management intranet for our bigger clients and have all of that stuff warehoused there. So I'm basically developing Zywave products as they're developing them, and I don't know about it. And so I was talking to my sales guy one time and explaining to him, this is one of the ways we've used the training and we've made it digital because, listen, man, if you're dealing with service contractors, for me to show up and do a PowerPoint for 20 minutes, you might as well forget about it. Even if I'm there at 6:30 in the morning when everybody gets to work, having that business owner allow me to have 20 or 30 minutes to train people is just not going to happen. But every one of these guys and ladies has an iPad when they're out. So, yeah, I mean, the problem is that you're never going to get that business owner to give you the time with those people. So we needed to figure out creative ways to solve problems. And I mean, we lead with experience mod analysis. That's the easiest way for me to get into accounts. And I don't know, Bobby, how much you know about the state of Florida and how all of that works, but we have state administered pricing for workers' comp. So I could go to 10 different carriers and the bottom line number for the premium is pretty much going to be the same across the board. So the experience modification factor is a big differentiator in the ability to go in and validate that it's accurate, but then more importantly, point to top loss drivers for frequency and severity, look at indemnity claims, how much has happened inside and outside the split point, and all of those things become very good tools for us to use. Well, when we're dealing with comp that has bad performance, there's usually a high likelihood they've got bad auto performance too, because the comp claims are coming from auto accidents. So we needed to figure out a creative way for us to be able to go in and deliver the training for defensive driving, distracted driving, and all of those things without intruding on our client's day. And that's basically what I came up with. And as I was talking with Jack, my sales guy, he told me, we already have this learning management system that we just rolled out. We probably should talk to you about it. And I'm thinking, dude, I just invented this and put a lot of time into recording all of it. So I'm not even going to admit that you have a better product than what I have right now. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. But it's so ironic because I actually had a call scheduled with him this afternoon to look at what we're going to do going forward with some of this stuff, man, because that's a huge deal. I mean, it's interesting. Again, it goes back to what I said before. It's never the process or the product. It's always the person. And even with MyWave Connect, MyWave Connect is an awesome tool, man. I mean, you can give every single one of your clients a portal. Who does that, right? But the problem is you have to follow that up. You can't just say, oh, here's your portal, go use it. You have to have a system built around that. And I have a good buddy of mine, Josh Gurley, who is a Zywave, evangelist as well. Their agency's up in Warner Robins, Georgia. And Josh does a lot with a very specific niche market for trailer manufacturing. And one of the deals they did was they rolled out the portal to everyone in the association that they're part of. They're allowing them to use the portal as a prospecting tool as well as a client tool. And so my question to Josh was, how much business have you gotten from that? And he couldn't answer me. And I said, this is where I think the disconnect is for a lot of agencies. And I'm not throwing off on Josh. They run an awesome agency. But at the same time, one of the things he was asking me is, how do you think we could capitalize on our niche market more? And I said, truthfully, you should be reaching out to everybody and have automations in place to where if you give them credentials to get into the portal, you automatically, like 3 days later, send them something following up, and then set a task for somebody internally to call them the following week, and then have a 30-day follow-up, because people don't adopt new behaviors very easily, right? Like for me, right now, the coolest part about Killing Commercial, our training program, is the social community that's around it. I can give you e-learning. I can give you a static content library of all of the marketing tools that we've developed. It's my proprietary content for my agency. But the fact that we have a social network of like-minded agents from across the country that can rely on each other and communicate in real time is huge, And so when you look at how that whole thing is set up, right now, it's good, but it's not awesome. And the reason why it's not awesome is because of the user interface. I have to get people off of LinkedIn and Facebook and then have them go, assuming that they're part of the large percentage of people that are accessing my product via mobile device. They have to go to a mobile web browser. That's why I'm going 90-0 right now in app development to get the app rolled out so that, boom, they can go to one place. Now, if they want to hear the podcast, it's there. The blog is there. The news feed is there. The forum is there. All of the e-learning stuff that we do for sales training is there. And I recognize that. And I think that, if you're going to change people's behavior, you have to, A, give them a reason to change their behavior, give them that reason to leave Facebook, LinkedIn, all of the other places. But B, you have to make it seamless for them to do that. And so for me, again, MyWave Connect, I don't know why anybody wouldn't want to use that. I mean, there's so many toolkits and things like that in there. One of the creative ways that we use it is we use it as a prospecting tool with regard to people doing the salary benchmarking reports. So if we're going to go call on auto shops, for example, and mechanics are in high demand, one of the things we'll leave for a cold call marketing drop is a benchmarking report for what the average mechanic is making in the Bay Area, the state of Florida, and then nationwide. And it's a real simple play. You walk in and the shop owner's usually extremely busy, and you recognize it and say, hey, look, looks like you're shorthanded. Just wanted to touch base, introduce ourselves. We're in your area all the time. We'll stop back by at a more convenient time, but I wanted to leave this with you. And honestly, it looks to me like it's a little more applicable than what I thought. If you're out there turning a wrench, you're probably looking for mechanics all the time. This is a benchmarking report that my firm has provided you. Just, it'll help you with recruiting and retaining your talent. Then you can start the conversation around benefits benchmarking reports, total compensation statements, all of those tools that are best practices really that Fortune 500 companies use to retain and to recruit and retain talent. I mean, it's a no-brainer. If I was a business and I had that at my fingertips, that's awesome. They do have that at their fingertips. We fail them as agents by not educating them on how to use that. And shame on me for doing that. As I'm sitting here talking to you right now, my next thought is, what I really need to do is I probably need to create a video on here's how you go into your portal and do this and make that part of the automation that we send out through HubSpot, where they get an email with a static JPEG that they can click, and it actually links to a landing page explaining to, giving them the steps to how to do all this stuff. Now, listen, I know 95% of the people listening to this are never going to take the time to do that, but that's what it takes, man. You can't change behavior just because you release a product. Very, very rarely.
And nowhere in there, I mean, aside from when you brought up benefits, did you talk about anything insurance related, really?
Yeah.
You know, that term didn't come up. And that's huge because that's obviously our value proposition. But everybody's walking into businesses talking about, the same thing over and over, saving them on, their insurance premiums. But if you take that other angle and you have the content and the stuff to back it up, with some of the stuff from MyWave, like we're talking about, I mean, it all just flows together. It makes the conversation much easier.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a huge opportunity that a lot of agencies miss out on. Well, listen, I'm gonna open it up to you, man. Is there anything else that you want people to know about Zywave before we wrap up? I mean, we've done a pretty good job on hitting on what I wanted to talk about, but I wouldn't be a very good host if I didn't give you a chance to talk about what you want to talk about.
I appreciate it. Well, I get the music playing where you yank me off the stage. What is it?
My favorite Showtime at the Apollo when the clown comes out and sweeps the stage.
So great. I get that reference. So, I mean, yeah, two things. Just one thing, piggybacking on MyWave, the advanced learning management system courses that are super applicable to PNC. I just want to mention that we've recently added industry specific courses for example, construction, transportation, restaurants, many others. Once again, you can serve this up to your clients, depending on what industry they're in. We also, this is, it's there. It's really key for certain states, but we have sexual harassment prevention courses, California, Connecticut, Delaware, Illinois, Maine, New York, and Washington. And finally, the coronavirus prevention and response course package. So if you're not a client of Zywave, which we'd love for you to be a partner of ours moving forward or in the future, if you go to our website, there on the top bar, the navigation bar, it will say COVID-19, and there's a drop down that says COVID-19 Resource Center. And we've released a ton. I say a ton, I mean a very significant amount of content related around the coronavirus. It's PNC specific, a lot of it like OSHA information, frequently asked questions, return to work information, lots of things that a lot of people right now are scrambling to find as we're kind of in this, we're starting to look forward a little bit as a country and getting back to work. We've given this away to the world, really. So you can go there, you can download this stuff for free. It's not comprehensive in that there's a lot of other content we've created that it lives in Content Cloud or Broker Briefcase. So definitely wanted to mention that. Also, we did recently release an ebook. If you go to insurancesalesrevolution.com, so this is actually hot off the e-presses from last week. Jason Liu, who is our leader, our fearless leader, as Zywave CEO for the past several years, and Don Bailey, who he was a CEO and chairman of Willis Towers Watson, president of Allstate's business portfolio, and the president of global sales at Marsh. And they both came together and wrote this. We started the end of last year writing this book. I say it's been a community effort to talk about digital disruption. The sales revolution, a lot of things you're talking about, actually. You should write a prologue to this in the second edition. But, really how the insurance landscape has, remained largely unchanged for years until now. I mean, you see this, a lot of our competitors talk about this. We've been talking about it. We really wanted to put our stake in the ground of where we thought insurance sales is going. And then, February, March, coronavirus hit. So it really, we were going to release this in March originally. We realized this was a good opportunity for us to add some language about this. So this isn't a coronavirus or COVID book, okay? But it really goes along line of adding a real sense of urgency to why, digital disruption, how are you going to drive your agency growth moving forward, was already happening, but now it's really happening. So there's very specific use cases. It's a pretty easy read. It's probably a 45-minute read for some, 60-minute read for me. Lots of good pictures in there as well, too. So insurancesalesrevolution.com. It's a free download. You don't have to become a partner or anything to read that. I highly recommend checking that out. It also gives some good hints for the direction Zywave is going moving forward. So, and I'll wrap that up by saying, if it's been a while, if you're one of those 50% of people who didn't have the most positive view on what we've done maybe in the past, or just bad experience or word of mouth, we would love the opportunity to chat again, kind of show you some things that we've rolled out, talked about today, and we'll be rolling out for you in the future. So,
it's pretty funny, man, because I do a really good job of fighting for you guys on the front lines, behind the scenes. And I can usually get most people to see the light after a couple of conversations, but it's good. It's a good partnership that we have with you. We appreciate having you. I realize that, it's a business relationship and money changes hands, but I don't do business with people that I don't like and products that I don't believe in. And I can tell you, I bet you I've sent 24 people that you guys have inked in 2020 that have come your way just through some of those conversations. But I have a really good relationship with the guys on the sales side, and they know that if they ever have somebody who wants to talk to an agency that knows what's up and how to use your product and use it effectively to drive business, that they can pick up the phone and call me, and I will happily get on the horn with those people anytime. So I wanted to extend that invitation to you. I realize you're probably not on the front lines very much, but if you
I'm like the artillery, we're like the artillery. Like I can see the front lines, and we're lobbing bombs over. I don't know if it's a good analogy, but
I'm like the ogre that just goes in and just
Braveheart when they smash together.
Yeah, absolutely. But I really appreciate the partnership. I like technology. I like where I see things going. And I look forward to a long-standing and continued mutually beneficial relationship with you guys. Listen, if anybody out there has questions, I do not get paid. I want to make 100% certain everybody understands. Zywave is no way a sponsor of Power Producers, Killing Commercial, Florida Risk Partners. I don't get a commission for selling their product, any kind of affiliate revenue, period. I simply believe in what they do, and they pay me in spades by allowing me to close business through the tools that they provide. So if you want to talk and you want to ask questions, feel free to reach out to me anytime. But Bobby, if they want to hear from you, man, I don't know, maybe they want to talk to you about some of the stuff they've heard. Is there a way they can get in touch with you?
Yeah, absolutely. Shoot me an email anytime. It's Bobby.Schmidt. That's SCHMIDT @Zywave.com. Happy to chat anytime. Boring over here in marketing when you get heads down, headphones on, so happy to chat.
I hear you. Well, listen, man, I really appreciate your time with us today. It means a lot that you were willing to take an hour to spend with us. I trust that you will get significant traction from this podcast when we air it. I know that we have a lot of loyal people out there who listen to us. They've sort of poked around and wanted to look behind the curtain. I think we gave them just enough today to make them realize there's a reason why we've been able to be successful as an agency, and I hope that they do their best to replicate that, because it will do nothing except improve the reputation of our industry. So with that, I'm going to wrap it up. Thanks again, man. We'll be in touch soon, and I would definitely did not fall on deaf ears when you said we should do it in another year or two to see what happens. I welcome that opportunity, man. I'd look forward to seeing how much things have changed.
Likewise. Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate you.
Absolutely.
Thanks,
have
Bobby.
a good one. See ya.
You've been listening to the Power Producers Podcast. You can follow Killing Commercial Insurance on Facebook and YouTube. And if you want to take your game to the next level, check out our book, The Extra 2 Minutes, and our website, killingcommercial.com.